What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another edition of the Dolphins In Depth podcast. I'm Daniel Oyefusi. That is David Neal. Thanks so much for tuning in. Quick reminder before we start, make sure to subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, as well as subscribe to the Miami Herald.
That one.
No, that one. Now, your Miami Dolphins are back in Miami Gardens after a convincing blowout win of the Washington Commanders, 45-15. The win improved their win streak to 3 games. It improved their record to 9-3 for the first time since 2001, and it increased their lead in the AFC East to 3 games. Keep in mind, they haven't won the division since 2008. However, that is not the biggest piece of news to come out of the week 13 for the Miami Dolphins. They had to wait a little bit. They had to wait Sunday night for the outcome of the Green Bay Packers Kansas City Chiefs game, and they had to wait till Monday night for the outcome of the Cincinnati Bengals Jacksonville Jaguars game. But after losses to losses by Jacksonville and Kansas City, your Miami Dolphins are officially the #1 seed in the AFC entering week 14. Now, raise the banner. But keep in mind, there's still 5 games left. However, the Dolphins, quote unquote, control their destiny. Now, we tend to hear that term, that phrase around this time of the year. The Dolphins do. There's only 1 game that separates them from the 4th seed currently occupied by the Jacksonville Jaguars. But if the Dolphins win their final 5 games, they will be the #1 seed throughout the playoffs and have home field advantage throughout the duration of the postseason. They haven't been the #1 seed in the playoffs since 1984, so that'd be a remarkable feat. Winning the
Which
final.
was the last time they made the Super Bowl?
Our historian David Neal chimes in. There we go.
Uh,
But
you younger folks out there who don't remember that this actually once happened.
for the young folks like me. But again, winning their final 5 games is easier said than done. But the Dolphins are right where they want to be. And then some. We talked to a couple players, Coach Mike McDaniel. A little bit of a different schedule this week because they're hosting the Tennessee Titans on Monday Night Football in a couple of days. But they said that their focus continues to be on taking it one day, 1 game at a time. They have loftier goals in mind than the #1 seed, and they'll take the next step on trying to capture that top spot in the conference when they host Tennessee. Got a lot to talk about with that. There was a lot of developments around the AFC outside of the Dolphins win. I've got some injuries to monitor, both within the Dolphins and outside, as well as recapping a game that the Dolphins won and were expected to, but they began the December slate the way they wanted to after last year losing 5 straight games in December and kind of having a nerve-wracking end to the season. But I really want to start with this really big piece of news. Now, the AFC has been crazy competitive the entire year. But the Dolphins have steadily been improving outside, after they returned from the bye week. Again, the #1 in the AFC. If they can just win out, they're good to go. I will say, we've talked about this for the past couple of weeks. We still don't really know, what this team is really, really about until the final 3 games. But I think that at this point of the season, I've seen enough, or maybe I haven't seen enough to say this. If the Dolphins get the #1 seed in the AFC, they're going to the Super Bowl. If the Dolphins do not get home field advantage in the Super Bowl, in the playoffs, I don't think they can make the Super Bowl. At least from what I've seen and what I haven't seen right now. Now,
Hmm. Well, that's
yeah.
it's a big statement. Big statement.
From what I've
Um,
seen and what I
and,
haven't seen,
and,
I'm just judging the
right
landscape of the
now,
conference.
now, Mr. Oyefusi, please explain your logic behind this
So,
position.
so here's the deal. The Dolphins have, by and large, and Mike McDaniel has kind of mentioned, he kind of alluded to this when he spoke to us earlier today. The Dolphins have taken care of business when they have been expected to. And they did so again on Sunday. So, and they did so in blowout fashion, very convincing fashion. Um, and that's very, very commendable. I know Dolphins fans will quickly point out that there are teams with similar records and in similar places who have had slip ups against teams that they shouldn't have slipped up against. You can look all across the league. You
Yeah,
can look
right.
at the
But
Eagles. You can look at the Eagles. You can look at the Jaguars. You can look at Kansas. You can look at all these teams and say like, all right, they lost a game. I had a game that just kind of like made you scratch your head and say, how did they lose that game? Completely understand that. And the Dolphins don't really have that on their resume right now. But as I've said time and time again, and I'll say it again, the Dolphins aren't playing the Panthers of the worlds, the Giants of the worlds, the Jets of the worlds, or the Commanders of the worlds in the playoffs when it matters most. They're not playing those teams. So me personally, I do factor in, they haven't looked like quote unquote themselves against tougher competition, whether that's the Kansas City Chiefs or that's the Philadelphia Eagles or the Bills, who aren't necessarily the same team that they were back when they played them, a couple months ago. But you understand my point. So again, I think that they were, and I wrote it in my game story. I think that there were wins within the victory for the Dolphins, on Sunday, where like, you saw them, be able to adjust and handle some injuries on the offensive line. You saw them run the ball extremely well. You saw the defense continue to do what they've done over the past month or so, even without Jalen Phillips and Javon Holland. And then they lost Jerome Baker, who's going to be week to week with an MCL sprain or MCL injury, Mike McDaniel said. But that's almost to be expected at this point. And it was funny. I was thinking the one thing that we've seen on the road that wasn't really an issue on Sunday was pre-snap operation on offense. And I didn't really mention it or ask anybody about it, but the reason why it really wasn't an issue was because, I mean, half of FedEx Field was filled with Dolphins fans. So,
yeah.
when you're going on the road, potentially to Kansas City or to Baltimore or even Jacksonville, potentially, like, it's not going to be like that. So it's like I wait, I always say, like, wins and losses all count the same, but they're not created equal. All wins count the same, but they're not created equal. All losses count the same, but they're not created equal. This 3 game stretch at the end will tell me a lot, and maybe I'll change my opinion. But that's why I say, like, if they get home field advantage, they're so good at home. They're undefeated at home this season. They have this crazy record dating back to last year. I feel very confident in saying that they're if they are able to stay at Hard Rock Stadium for the duration of the postseason, they will be able to go to the Super Bowl. I'm still not yet sure and convinced that if they have to win 1 or 2 road games, that they can do that. But they've set themselves up in a position where, hey, if you can take care of your business, going on the road, we've all said the Dolphins can't win on the road. The Dolphins can't win on the road. They can't beat a good team on the road or whatever. They're in a position where that could be all immaterial.
Irrelevant, right?
Yeah, relevant.
The question is moot.
Yeah.
Um, I understand. I mean, I understand that. And then look, it is underrated, actually, I think, honestly, and that the Dolphins are, they have the record they do against teams that they're supposed to beat.
Yeah,
It's not,
they do not they do not
but
have off games, and
every
they have off
every
games. It doesn't
year,
matter.
every year there are good teams that lose games that you theoretically say, well, how did they lose that? Why did they lose? Why did they lose that? One of my favorite stats of all time, during the Steelers run in the 70s, when they won 4 and 6 years, their record against teams under 500 was like 50-1, which you can't find that almost any other 6-year stretch for any team, even the 49ers, the Patriots. Every year there's that game where you just don't have it. And so, yeah, the Dolphins need to beat a team over 500 before they get in the playoffs, just show themselves, if nothing else, if nobody else,
Just
they can. Yeah.
show me. It would give me some
Yeah, you
confidence.
see, well, if they don't show you, that's okay. But you sitting in a press box, they need to know for themselves because they're the one actually on the field. They're the one getting hit in the mouth and trying to hit somebody else in the mouth.
Yeah.
So, so you know, yeah, that does need to happen. But okay, the Dolphins have done this for almost an entire season now, and let's give them credit for actually doing that when, as we've noted, everybody else has had that game or two where you're going, what? How? What? How? Oh. Um, and yeah, I mean, obviously, if they're at home, probably in the lovely winter weather, which is fall and summer everywhere else, uh, of South Florida. Uh, they probably don't have to deal with any elements. Um, that Super Bowl, that Colts Bears Super Bowl aside, it is not the rainy season here, so you're probably not looking at a rainstorm that screw up your passing game, um, turn the field into muck, and kind of equalize things, which is what bad weather tends to do.
Yeah.
Um, you're just not looking at you're looking at conditions that this team likes to play in. It's no different than a dome team like the Colts of the Manning era, getting home field advantage and you know being a lot better facing the Patriots in their dome than facing the Patriots in you know snow and
LA.
sleet and
Yeah.
wind in Foxborough. So that's a perfectly reasonable thing on the perfectly reasonable theory on that front also. Um, so yeah, this their potential for it's funny how this suddenly just kind of fell before them.
Yeah,
Um,
the floodgate is kind of
yeah,
open. There's a path, not just like in terms
everybody
of
looked
number one seed,
like
but in terms of like the actual conference. There is no juggernaut. We've said this for there's no juggernaut in the
there really is.
conference. And
There's no.
obviously, we hate to see this happen on Monday night, but Trevor Lawrence goes down with a high ankle sprain. We don't know what his status is. I mean, even if he does come back soon, he's gonna be hobbled. Chiefs lose again, and they're just not looking like themselves. For me right now, it looks like it's kind of a I don't want to say a two-man, kind of fight, but it seems like it's the Dolphins and the Ravens. Like it feels like one of those teams, it seems like they're trending where they're going to come out of the AFC. And it seems like that week 17 game might more or less decide the number one
Number
seed and
one
home
seed.
field advantage. Like I expect the Dolphins to win, the rest of their games. And then that game in Baltimore on New Year's Eve is kind of a toss-up. And it's like, hey, if you lose that game, that might be the difference between having to go to Baltimore as opposed to hosting Baltimore. That's what it's looking like. The New York Times playoff simulator gives the Dolphins the greatest chance of all the AFC teams to get the number one seed at 37%, whatever that means. But like I said, there is a
Yeah.
path. The next two
Oh,
games,
no,
Titans,
it's
Jets, and then you get that tough stretch with the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills.
yeah, uh, the Cowboys, Ravens, and Bills will all have something to play for, presumably at that point. I mean, the Bills might not,
I mean,
the
the
way
Bills might need that
they're
to get to
probably
they might need that game to get to the postseason for all we know.
they might not they might need that game to get the playoffs, or they might be already too far gone.
Yeah, but that's still going to be tough. The Bills aren't going to end the season and just let the Dolphins kind of
And
coast into the
you know,
playoffs. Regardless of whether
if the Bills are coming to Miami with nothing on the line, um, and and Miami's kind of got it almost got the home field advantage sewn up. I mean, or is close to sewing up the home field advantage. I think that's one of those games. Jump on them early, and see if they get the U-Hauls out. Because look, that can happen. That's the way that team's been trending, and everybody else seems to be self-destructing and just in this division. Uh, the conference, it's kind of funky. Like the teams that have been playing the best lately, most consistent lately
kind of
are
like the wild card
I mean
teams, kind
the
of
Dolphins, yeah,
the
the
Colts
Texans, the
are
Broncos.
all of a sudden the Colts are in the mix. Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, but that's uh, I'm sorry, I don't see any of those teams when it gets the playoffs, and there is another level of it is another level of play. It is another level of intensity. It's another level of everything. I don't see those teams. I think those teams are maxing out to doing what they're doing right now. I don't see them having that. next level.
Yeah.
I think the Dolphins have that next level. I think Baltimore has that next level. I think Kansas City definitely, well, obviously Kansas City, can sit there and go like that. They definitely have that next level, or some of the players in their team have the next level. I'm not sure about all the players in that team. Um, so, you know, Jacksonville maybe is finding that next level. The Bengals have it if they can,
No, they got a
if they
backup
can somehow
quarterback.
get this.
I'm not thinking much of. I know they got a big win, but they got a backup. I think there's a ceiling there.
Did you see? Could Joe Burrow have completed more passes than their backup quarterback did last night?
I mean, hey, if you're gonna say the Bengals are gonna, make a run to the AFC Conference Championship game, go. I'm not. Yeah, they're not in
I
my.
watched the Giants. I watched the Giants win the Super Bowl with Jeff Hostetler, dude. Okay,
I'm not,
so
I'm a,
spare me the oh no, a backup quarterback can't do it.
I'm a
A backup
skeptic.
quarterback gets his business together, and they there can be problems in the playoffs.
Hey man,
Backup quarterback problems in the playoffs.
if you want to put a little money on that, and Hard Rock or whatever, be my guest.
No, I'm no what I'm telling you is to sit there and discount it is to be foolish and callow and not conscious of the fact that this has happened before. This wouldn't be the first time. So and that is a team. As a team, they've been to the Super Bowl recently.
Not with
So
hey, but you can call it naivety, call it ignorance.
no, yeah, I'm saying I'm saying if there's a situation where you can have a backup quarterback take you to the Super Bowl, it tends to be one where the backup quarterback is playing for a team that has been there recently and knows how to do it, and they know how to raise his game and put him in a place where he can do what he needs to do to get them there.
I hear you. I mean, I'm
Sorry,
not even.
I realize
I hear. You. I mean, I'm
I realize
not even
this.
sure if the Bengals are like in the playoff picture right now. I think they're. I don't even know if they're in like. I don't even think they're in the. But
They're kind of on the edge. They're on the edge of it. And do you think it really go ask around the NFL who wants them to get in?
uh,
Nobody.
all right. I mean, a difference of
They
opinions.
would
I'm
rather
just.
they'll take the Texans every day of the week and three times on Sunday, all three early game, mid game, Sunday night before they want to see the Bengals in the playoffs.
I mean, I hear you. I hear you. Difference of opinion. You know, I just don't.
Do
I'm
you
just
think
the
do you think
Bengals
anybody
with Jake Browning aren't really moving me personally, but difference of opinion. Either way, I mean, the Dolphins might want to give. Hey, if the Dolphins end up with the number one seed, they might want to give a Christmas gift or something to Jake Browning because he did put them in a spot to do that. And we'll see. We'll see if they can take advantage of that opportunity and capture the number one seed again. They haven't done it since 1984. But they have a golden opportunity now over the final 5 games of the regular season. We're going to take a short break, but when we come back on the other side of things, the Tua Tyreek connection was at its best, maybe all season. 157 yards for Tyreek, 2 long touchdowns, and the MVP whispers are, starting to become shouts for, the Dolphins' top wide receiver. But we're going to talk again. Should he be in consideration for the most prestigious individual award in the league? As well as discuss some Dolphins Titans coming up later on Monday night. Stay locked with us, and we'll be back soon. What's going on, everybody? Still here on the Dolphins in Depth podcast, talking all things Dolphins and a little bit of Bengals, I guess, with David Neal. Now, in the first half, we broke down the Dolphins sitting in the number one seed spot in the conference. They control their own destiny if they win their final 5 games. They will have home field advantage for the duration of the postseason. Now, I want to not take it. It's the opposite of taking a step back. Kind of focus in on a very interesting topic that is been percolating, bubbling over the course of the season. I think it got a little more attention because of a standout performance in the Dolphins beat down of the Commanders, and that's the Tyreek Hill MVP candidacy. Now we've discussed it a couple times on this show. the merits of it. We know that he's on pace for the first 2,000-yard receiving season. He inched even closer to that with a 5-catch, 157 yard and 2 touchdown performance, 2 deep touchdowns of 78 yards and 60 yards, might I say, might add. He actually, I don't know if you saw the clip, but after the game, I think Tua was, kind of doing something on the NFL social media accounts. And Tyreek got into the frame and he goes, "Hey, this is the MVP right here." We've asked Tyreek about the possibility of winning MVP. He said, "Hey, you know, I can't win the award because we got a much more better and important player to us, and that's the QB. He's, pumped up Tua, uplifted Tua as for from the moment he got here.
Right.
But it's just the rarity of his season and what he's been doing this season particularly has got a lot of people's attention. He's currently seventh in MVP odds, so it's not like it's I guess I don't know if you'd say a long shot, but at this point of the season, I guess that's a relative long shot. But it's starting to gain a little bit of steam, especially as you see no quarterback in the NFL having like a distinctive um, season that completely separates themselves from their peers. Obviously, Tua is the quarterback that's throwing him the ball, and this has mainly been a quarterback award. I believe the last non-quarterback to win the award was Adrian Peterson about a decade ago. But I feel like if there's any year for Tyreek or for a non-quarterback to get the award, it's this year. And me personally, I'm not saying that he will win the award, but me personally, I'm really starting to get behind the idea of Tyreek winning it just based off the rarity of and the rarity of this historical season that he's on pace for, and what he does for this offense. Like, obviously he's a shoo-in for Offensive Player of the Year award, but just the nature of what he does for this offense, how he opens things up, and just like it's just like his talent and his skill set is just like one of one. And obviously, there's so much that goes into it. And again, Tua has been playing, top three, top five quarterback, and top quarterback play in the league. But I'm starting to get behind the MVP, MVP kind of, noise for Tyreek. I'm not opposed. At first, it was like I'm not opposed to it. Now I'm starting to kind of get behind it, honestly. And that's no knock to Tua, because Tua has been absolutely great. Um, but just the rarity of this season, I think, especially in a year where normally a quarterback award, there's no like distinctive quarterback that really has stood out to me per se. I I'm cool with Tyreek getting that award. I don't think he will, but I think he should garner significant consideration for it.
Well, okay, let's say the NFL MVP award is part of the reason the quarterbacks win is people interpret the award literally, most valuable player,
And
and
I usually do, and I usually do too.
and that usually on most teams is the quarterback, and especially lately, the way this league has gone, it's really hard for even a great defensive player to to have that kind of impact on a game that
Lawrence Taylor. Can we take a hit? Was Lawrence Taylor the last defensive player to win MVP?
ah, I,
I was gonna say
I'm
you are
not
a
sure he
resident historian. You're supposed to know this.
yeah, well,
Right.
there's that one might be a little deep in the hard drive. Um, I mean, I think uh
It was Lawrence Taylor in 1986. There we go.
okay, the year the Giants won the Super Bowl. It went 14-2, and
All right,
uh
now you're bringing out all the facts. Now you're bringing it.
sorry. Um, but but also Lawrence Taylor.
Yeah,
I mean,
it goes without saying.
one of the most impactful players we've ever had in the game, especially on the defensive side of the ball.
Mhm.
That's the level it took to pull it to that side. And so if you interpret it as literally, yeah, it's going to be a quarterback. But if you interpret it as either the biggest standout player of that season or the player who had the most standout season.
Yeah, it's not like the
Um,
high. It's not like the Heisman where they have like the Heisman is like the most outstanding
Right, right.
college football player. You know, they have offensive player of the year. And
And
it's funny, and it's funny real quick. It's funny because MVP has essentially become the best quarterback of the year, and then the offensive player of the year award has become the best non-quarterback. And I don't
right,
understand that. Like if you're the
right.
MVP of the league, how do you not get offensive player of the year award?
Yeah.
It's all just kind of like weird to me at this point.
It is. And um I think if Tyreek Hill gets, I mean, obviously over 2,000 yards receiving, which is, I mean, that's a jump out number. Even if he edges over it, it's a jump out number,
Yeah.
right? Because it's a barrier. You haven't crossed it. And uh and he does with a jackload of touchdowns and a high, and I want his yards per catch average. Um if it's a yards per catch average is way up there because it's hard for wide receivers to have a really high
Yeah.
yards per catch average these days because everybody's throwing the ball on 3rd and 2.
He's
So,
averaging 15.9.
15.9. Okay, if like look, if he got over 2,000 yards and averaged 17 yards per catch, which would be huge for today,
Yeah.
these days, I would say, hey, give it to him for Pete's sake. It's such a stand that those numbers jump out. Um, in even the brute numbers, the brute yards, but also in the yards per catch. They say in an era when you look back at some of the older wide receivers and you saw these huge yards per catch. Yeah, because they're not throw
They're not
because
throwing
teams
a
didn't throw the
ton.
ball
Yeah,
on third
yeah.
and three or 3rd and 4.
Yeah.
They weren't just catching, okay, we'll throw it to him. We'll throw the little quickie, screen to him, or we throw the quick slant to him for 5 yards, and maybe he'll break it. They did that once in a while. Teams do it all the time now,
Hmm.
and uh, so it's really hard to have a high yards per catch. And he's effective almost every game. Every game. Like there's one or two plays where he gets deep or he breaks one big and
Or if he doesn't, he's drawing two, three defenders. And I
right,
mean, we saw that in, I believe it was the Patriots game, the second Patriots game, where they're driving down, they need a touchdown to kind of seal the game or score to seal the game. He goes in motion, and literally like two guys go with him, and Waddle is right over the middle of the field. So I mean, it's not just like him catching the ball.
right,
That's the thing you can't even quantify, like how much attention he draws with all the motions and all the movement and whatnot.
right. And also with what he does and what Waddle does, that also opens up so much for the running game. Because you gotta pay attention to them and you have to
Dolphins
deal.
don't run into like they don't run into stacked boxes. I mean, teams are not throwing seven, eight
Yeah,
guys in the box because you can't afford to leave guys on the back, like a few guys on the back end. I mean, there's like it's kind of a trickle down effect that we don't always really consider outside of the tangible counting stats.
but I think he should. I think there should be momentum for him as MVP. And frankly, I think um, as much as I mean, it, as much as we talk about like quarterbacks and everything, we see every year that yeah, it's important to have a good quarterback, but it's also important to have like a lot of other good pieces too. I mean,
Yeah,
look at San Francisco. I mean, Brock Purdy didn't look really that great
when
when
he lost Debo Samuel, he
Debo
lost Trent
Samuel.
Williams. Guys
Right,
were
right,
out of the lineup because of injury.
right. When they get back, oh wow, look at how good he looks. Well, yeah.
But he's playing well as well. Like it's an interesting topic, especially because I know, for our listeners and watchers who are like on social media, obviously quarterback dialogue and quarterback discourse, runs runs sports, football media and football talk. And I think that sometimes we're not nuanced enough. I think that like Mike McDaniel kind of spoke to it and about how you can uplift Tyreek without having to like, put down Tua and
Right,
discredit Tua and vice versa. Um, and I think that there's so much that goes to an individual player success and then ultimately a team success that sometimes it gets lost in the shuffle because of just kind of preconceived notions of whatnot. I think that Tua that's been happening with Tua a lot in the past 2 years, or at least since McDaniel arrived, and we've seen his play elevate. Like, yes, is it true that Tua has benefited from the presence of Tyreek Hill and the coaching and the scheming of Mike McDaniel? There's no doubt. But you can't watch the games and honestly say that Tua is not a more comfortable player, a more confident player, a better player, a healthier player. Like all these things can be true at the same time. Um, Going back to the overall discourse about the MVP, it's interesting because again, there's been no standout quarterback season right now. And I think that if you look at all the top guys, there's like one thing that you can kind of poke in the MVP candidacy. So whether it's Brock Purdy and you say, oh, well, he's got a stacked team, and then you look at, Tua and you say, oh, well, he has, a 2,000 yard receiver that's making life easy for him. Or I think for me, the real knock on maybe Tua's MVP candidacy would be how he's fared against some of the better competition on the schedule. That's what it would be for me more so. And I think that again, over the next 5 weeks, final 5 weeks of the season, especially the final 3 game stretch, Tua could, start to stack up some games where you say, okay, wait, maybe this guy really should have been, the MVP front runner. But I also wonder if, when it comes time to vote, if maybe the voters kind of split the vote between Tua. Like, let's say the Dolphins are the number one seed, and if they're the number one seed, there's a very good chance that Tyreek has eclipsed 2,000 yards. And I didn't mention it yet, but I was doing the 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 counting. Tua's on pace for like 4,800 yards, 34 touchdowns. That's an MVP caliber statistical season, like truth be told. So if they
Yeah,
get to the number one seed,
unless your receiver has 2,000 yards,
exactly. So it's like
right? He has 2,000 of those 4,800 yards.
so exactly. So I do wonder if they do, get the number one seed and Tua's at 4,800, 35 touchdowns, but then Tyreek has 2,075 yards and close to 20 touchdowns. I do wonder if some of the voters are like, I'm gonna give it to the quarterback, and some of them are like, well, none of the quarterbacks really like blew me away like that. Despite the numbers, I'm gonna give it to the wide receiver, and I wonder maybe that kind of divides the vote. And then it goes to somebody else. It's going to be really interesting. It's
Right.
going to be really
Then,
interesting because we still have
yeah.
a month left of football, but there's no like clear I don't like the idea of giving it to the best to the quarterback with the best record. I don't like that. Like I don't like the idea of that.
Well,
And
no,
I hope that it
there's
doesn't become
there's
that.
too much goes into having too much goes into usually most teams too much goes into having the best record. It's not just the quarterback. There's so much, we all know there's so many other moving parts to a football team and in winning a football game. Um and uh you know, I, yeah, a split vote, I could see that, like, then suddenly, I don't know, pushing in I don't know, a Jalen Hurts or I don't know,
A Brock Purdy, maybe. Like, I mean, hey, Brock Purdy is currently the
CJ,
front runner according to
or
DraftKings.
I mean, I- somebody needs to do something about CJ Stroud. That boy's gonna be a real problem for a long time.
He's been cooking.
Uh, and I think he might lead in yardage right now, the last I looked.
Yeah.
Um, and now he's going to be doing it without one of his receivers.
Fibula.
Broke his leg this weekend. Um, so yeah, it's very wide open MVP case, and there really isn't,
There's no
you know,
runaway. There's no runaway favorites. I
yeah,
mean,
there,
this,
there's
this,
no there's no runaway, and but I do think if you have, okay, Tua has 4,800 yards, and like I say, 2,000 of those come from Tyreek. That's, you're just under 50% of your yards going to one guy, and over 50% of your touchdowns are going to one guy. Uh, and that one guy has put up numbers that are just eye-popping for historically. Then maybe, maybe the vote should go to the other guy. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. So okay, fine. So what? 1 year a quarterback doesn't win the award? Oh no. What will happen? Will the universe come apart? Um, so yeah, I mean, I know. I actually find it funny the scenario you used to have of them splitting the vote, and
It
then
reminds me.
somebody comes in like American in Paris and gets the Best Picture Oscar.
Yeah, I was gonna say there was like some I forgot some old 1800s election where one party split the votes and they, because of that, the other party candidate got it. It's like that's my fear right now. We're gonna have a, dissension in the party. But I mean, we'll see. We'll see. I mean, it's like again, Tua is tied with according to DraftKings, he's tied with Patrick Mahomes, uh, for the fourth best odds, I guess you'd say. Tyreek Hill seventh. You got Dak Prescott, Brock Purdy, Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, all in the mix. There's like 4 or 5 guys who again could win the award. You say, okay, sure, like I could see that. Again, we still got a lot of ball left to play, and we'll see how that shakes out. Of more important pressing matters for the Dolphins, though, is their upcoming game against the Tennessee Titans. It is a rare home Monday night game for the Miami Dolphins. Dun 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 dun. Yeah, the Dolphins on a 3 game win streak. They've taken care of the teams that they've, been expected to. But Mike Vrabel led team, Derrick Henry under the lights. We just saw a team, and again led by a rookie quarterback in Will Levis. We just saw a team with a lesser caliber quarterback. We thought and the Bengals go up. I mean, hey, you are the commissioner of the Jake Browning bandwagon right now. We just saw them beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, albeit with an injury to Trevor Lawrence late in that game. So you never want to discount a team. And the Tennessee Titans at 4-8 are not really in the mix for anything. Second worst record in the AFC. It's interesting because it's a national game. I don't think we've seen the Dolphins on the national stage in some time, or I guess 2 weeks ago.
Well, yeah.
Right, yeah, Black Friday, and
Yeah, yeah.
obviously they looked good in that manner, and beating the Jets in that manner. So another opportunity to get a lot of eyeballs. A lot of times these nighttime games kind of sway perceptions and narratives and whatnot, whether right or wrong. So this is an opportunity in front of a big stage to make a statement. Again, as the number one seed, stay on top of the top spot in the conference. I expect them to do that. I think that it probably I think it'll be a little bit closer than the past 2 games. But I do think that young quarterback, rookie quarterback, just not a really great offense. I mean, they have Derrick Henry, but I'm not. I think that they have the defense to kind of bottle him up. On the other side of the ball, the Titans are going to be without Jeffrey Simmons, their stud defensive tackle. I think it's another kind of one of those kind of boat race games, but it's a little close early on. I think that this Commanders game that was done by them in the first quarter. I think it was 17-0 at the end of the first quarter. I don't think that they get out to that type of start, but I think it's a 31 to 14, 31 to 14 type game, taking the Dolphins in a convincing manner.
I am going to predict one of those old-fashioned Monday Night Football hasn't been here in a while. The fan base is jacked up. Everybody's going, everybody's running, and the home team is good and they are explosive. And they come out and the other team is like they're in the like a noise and wind tunnel. And by the time they figure out, what color jersey they're wearing, it's like 20 to nothing. And they're like, what is going on? And they can't, and they can't, and the crowd's going, they can't get their plays up, and then people run into each other and nobody blocks somebody and they get free shots the quarterback. um this feels like one of those games just because the Dolphins have this is the first. It's been a while since the Dolphins had a Monday night home game where
I
they
think it
thought
was
they
Jake. Well, I was gonna say the last Monday Night Football game they had was, I think when Jay Cutler beat the Patriots, I believe, it was a couple years back.
Yeah,
Was that
but
2016 maybe,
but when
something
they
like
were,
that.
yeah, but when they were like
Yeah.
a team like this, and you feel like they're really good, and and people are really excited about them, and there's just there's an energy, and it's in December, you got everybody down here on vacation, and you got the Dolphins fans from other places. Yeah, this this smells like buzzsaw, wind tunnel, whatever you want to call it. This smells like a massive butt kicking. And you know, all respect to, the Tennessee's a physical team. They always have been. They and you know, I'm sure they'll try to pound the Dolphins, take time off the clock, limit the number of possessions, do all that. But the Dolphins have a really good defense, and I don't think Tennessee's going to be able to do that to the as much as they want. And uh, I like Tennessee's young quarterback, but I think this is a rough situation for him, and I think he's going to be playing from behind early and playing from way behind early, and it's just not going to go well. I'm going to go like 40-14.
Hmm. 40
Um,
spot, 40 spot.
yeah, this, yeah, this is kind of one of those, just, close your eyes, if you're a wife of a Titans player, send the kids to bed early. Don't let them watch this. Don't let, you know, you know. Um, so yeah, yeah, this just smells like too many Monday night blowouts you could see coming from a mile away.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think definitely think they're gonna win in convincing fashion. Maybe not that big of a beating, but
But
uh,
and the players are, I guarantee you the players are going to be jacked up to, like, hey,
put on a show, put on a show for
national
sure.
right, we're out here, let's do it. They go come up with, I bet they come up with a new celebration too. And they're
I was gonna say
everybody wants to
we got
show
the
out.
roller coaster, we got
Yeah.
the I don't know the
The,
Zumba line or whatever.
yeah, the conga line's still my favorite,
Conga
but
line, there we go. The
yeah.
conga line. So we got
But
yeah, I was gonna say yeah, I'm sure they're cooking something up for the big stage.
but
There
yeah,
might be a lot of opportunities to celebrate for sure on Monday night.
and but like I say, you get Monday Night Football, and Sunday night and Monday night still, Monday night still brings that energy and that special energy and that special feel. And um when you get the fans into it, and the team feeds off the fans, and the home team's feeding off the fans, and yeah, it's like I said, I've seen this a few. I one of the things that is inviolate in my life is Monday Night Football.
Yep.
Like, one time I asked my then wife, I was like, "Hey, you want to go to Joe's Stone Crab night?" She's like, "You realize it's Monday Night Football tonight?" And I was like, "Yeah, yeah, but I think you've been patient with me a lot of time. She said, you realize it's Monday Night Football tonight." Say, okay, I'll go, but I'm telling you like three times, right? That's how, like, serious it is in my life. And like I said, I've seen this. This is those games you go, ooh, it's gonna hurt.
Yeah, man.
So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, the Dolphins do have some injuries to monitor. I will say we haven't really didn't discuss it a ton because they're managing their injuries weekly. Obviously the most pressing I think or the most kind of maybe concerning is Jerome Baker, who is week to week with a knee injury, torn arm, left with an ankle injury. Rob Hunt aggravated his hamstring injury. So they got some positions in flux, but I mean that's kind of par for the course around this time of the year. They've done well adjusting. And Mike Medina said if those guys um, can't play, we've got guys who can step up and we feel confident in them. So we'll see. A little bit of a weird schedule. They're pushing everything essentially back a day. So Tuesday was Monday. Wednesday will be a day off for them, a second day off for them, and then they'll get things jumping on Thursday. We're both taking the Dolphins by multiple scores on Monday night. All right, that brings us to the end of another edition of the Dolphins in That podcast. I want to thank you guys as always for tuning in. A reminder to subscribe to the Miami Herald YouTube page, like, share, comment, as well as subscribe to the Miami Herald. Now, again, the Dolphins have a different schedule this week. Everything's pushed back a day. So not the normal Wednesday availability with Tua, Mike McDaniel, other players talking. They'll start their practice in earnest on Thursday. But definitely stay locked to the Miami Herald for your latest Dolphins update. We'll be back
and
next
regular
week
news.
and regular news. We'll be back next week to recap another weekend slash Monday night of Dolphin football, I guess.
Yeah, we do it the day after. Yeah,
But until then, you guys take care. See you.
later.